Greetings and welcome to episode 10 of XEP's Creator Talk. If you are supporting on Patreon, thank you immensely. You are keeping the lights on and the content coming. If you're watching later on YouTube when this goes public, to everybody, please consider supporting XEP over at patreon.com/Xbox Expansion Pass, as we would love to have you there. Today, I am joined by one TKO Asante, host of the Gaming Circle podcast and the recently launched Gamers Playground, both of which you can find on his YouTube channel, which is closing in on close to 2,000 subscribers. We're getting there and rocking in there. Asante, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. This is amazing, man. I appreciate being part of the network, man. Being offered up as Patreon premium content. I am honored, sir. I feel premium right now. This is amazing.
You are premium. I love your show. I watch it every morning. I often lurk before we record, so it's a staple in my subscription service. And to me, you're one of the content creators that I watch evolving and learning as he goes, but bring something to the table everywhere. Whether you're a guest, whether you're producing, it's really cool. Which is why I think you have so much to bring to the table in terms of a creator talk and letting people know how you craft your product, what it is that you hope to accomplish with your work. So tell me, how long have you been a content creator?
Oh wow. So officially a content creator in this iteration of it, I would say I've been doing this about 3.5, almost 4 years now. As a content creator, period. And this is funny, you'll probably be the first to hear this. I've probably been doing this for about 4.5 years now. The first year was me dropping very, very interesting videos anonymously, where you would hear my voice, but you wouldn't see me and you wouldn't hear what it was. And it was just more data dumps, if you will. But it was just kind of me getting my feet wet, trying to understand the tools that were at my disposal and whatnot. But I did that for a while, just kind of dip a toe in the waters, and then I started, doing it in earnest for the last 3.5 years. So that's been the journey so far for me. I've been enjoying it so far.
What's the focus of your content for anybody that's unfamiliar? Obviously, it's a gaming channel, but like the Xbox Expansion Pass, it looks at all gaming from the Xbox perspective.
Absolutely, yeah.
What does your content focus on?
So myself and initially how this whole thing started with myself and Steven, Everborn Saga, my podcasting partner.
And
We
Sonic fan.
used to, and huge Sonic fan.
That's
oh
right.
my goodness, like dyed in the wool Sonic fan. I think he's further along than even Sega themselves, but that's neither here nor there. We used to just have a lot of conversations, he and I, just talking about the industry, talking about, because he also has a very interesting perch like myself. We've been gaming adjacent for basically our entire lives and have a lot of interesting insights. They say that seven degrees of Kevin Bacon, as they say. We have that in gaming parlance a lot. We know those who know those. We've been there adjacent. It's very weird how that works out because we've always been huge fans of the genre. So he and I communicated that way. We connected that way, and it just kind of evolved because we loved this space so much in the community, and we saw that there was a space for us that we could carve out for ourselves, where we would bring forth. He is a very much we're both very big technologists. I'm very much on the infrastructure side. I do that as for a living, so I know the speeds and feeds and the hardware and all of that. And he is a developer, does it for a living as well. Made games. I've made some games. We can communicate on that level and at an indie level, of course, but expound upon it and maybe provide some information that sometimes get lost in the sauce when the back and forth is going on them Twitter streets and various places that we communicate, right? So, it actually really crystallized for us towards the beginning of the last console generation, when a lot of misinformation was being thrown around. It kind of spurred us on to kind of put our voices out there and provide something that maybe wasn't being provided at the time. Needed context, which tends to get lost in some of the conversation. So that tends to be our focus.
So you're talking like you guys were able to add your voices to conversations about like RDNA 2 or teraflops. Is that what you mean?
Stuff like that in general, and for us, what was really important for us was at the time we wouldn't see folks that looked like us who would
Mhm.
speak the way we do about various topics, right? They would be it'd be very niche driven. It'd be very, and no, no shade to anybody who goes out there and puts a product out there, right? There's really cool, interesting content out there, and a lot of different consumers who love that stuff. I wanted to see a bunch of middle-aged men, hashtag graybeards, right? Have people with good life experience who can bring to bear some interesting nuggets of information that possibly would have me looking at things in a different way.
Mhm.
And I'd seen that a lot in our community already with, like you said, Mr. Boomstick and all these other really great creators. And I wanted folks that look like me that would potentially bring a different scenario to the game. Like, I'm a very international person. Most people don't know that because you hear the American English coming out of me. I've lived in most of the countries in the world and always
Really?
advocate for more of an international flair. Yeah, I've lived in lots of places.
Touch
Uh,
on touch
so
on two or three of them.
so I was born in Germany. I lived most of my life in the Netherlands. My wife is Dutch. I speak Dutch. I lived in America for a long time. Lived in Canada for some time. I've bounced around many
Had
many
no
places.
idea. Had no
Yeah.
idea.
So it's funny. Myself and the Wandering Dutch, we have fun. He's the Wandering Dutch. I speak more Dutch than he does.
I see. I see.
Yeah, yeah, that's the stuff. So that's why I love talking to all the great content creators from all around the world. I would love for it to it spurs you on to then go and do and be a part of that community internationally rather than a very a simplistic one focused view. So when we had the opportunity to bring a show together, it was just excellent. It was my opportunity to bring that to bear and to be able to talk to all these various interesting content creators from all around the world and see how they see things in their neck of the woods. That's been my driving force so far.
It's interesting to me to hear you talk about wanting to see people in the content creation space that look like you.
Hmm.
And you mentioned like an age demographic. I would imagine
Hmm.
also like people of color in a
Yeah,
realm there.
absolutely, absolutely, yeah.
And to be so well traveled and have a STEM background to me is this wonderful amalgamation of like what you bring to the table, and it echoes a lot of what I hear when I interview developers. When I
Mm,
whether it's Graham Reed talking about making games in Jamaica and wanting to see Jamaican creators, Remy Ismail
absolutely, yeah,
travels all over the world,
yeah.
making
Hmm.
games but
Yeah.
helping people make games.
Remy is a good dude. Like he's in Holland all the time. I like he's a big advocate. I love that guy. Like every time he's out there on a cause, that he's out there righteous, standing for the devs, standing for the people. I've always stood behind him, and he's always fighting the good fight, as it were. So big fans of those kind of folks who lead that initiative. I thought always great to see.
Agree. Remy taught me a lot by accident
Hmm.
during my interview with him, and
Mm,
I'm curious then, do you feel a responsibility then if you're trying to approach from the angle that you're approaching, do you feel a responsibility or a pressure in those ways to get it right?
it's not even a pressure necessarily, but yeah, I mean, you want to get it right, right? Absolutely, you want to get it right. But it's a like the thing that's fun for me about it is a conversation with a community, right?
Mhm,
You don't like the one thing that we don't do is we don't come there, we don't come to the show and say, sit down, folks, let's teach you something
mhm,
because honestly, we can't do that. That's not what we're there for. Because believe it or not, everyone comes to this thing with something new to offer, with something interesting to offer, right? And you'll be very interested to find out all the various walks of life that you'll step into when you happen to talk to our community, right?
mhm.
I will tell you, doing the show that I've done up until now, I have met so many amazing folks that know so much more than I do. Like, and I think that is excellent because like it's one of the things that has been a driving thing with me. It's what I used to literally get the job that I have right now. The man that knows something knows he knows nothing at all. Like you're busy learning or you're busy dying, and I'm busy learning and growing. So you know, we've met a bunch of folks, people that work for some of the platforms we talk about that are huge fans, and they watch the show and they talk to us in the background, and it's just awesome. It's being able to have that one-on-one dialogue with the community you learn something, you teach something. You were talking about the gamers playground. That's a reason why we're doing that as well. More of a PC focus. So, you can come ask questions. We can give you some answers. Maybe we dispel your knowledge that Windows is not like it used to be in Windows 95. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Maybe you can learn that gaming is possible on there now, like it used like it can be on console. It's just more of an educational communication with the community.
What kind of things does your community ask you then?
It's funny, like I've heard a lot of like we get a lot of stuff in the DMs, like a lot of stuff, and it's just a conversation. I just love it. It's great. For a while we were very much console folks, and I love my games. I play all games. I play VR games. I play console games. Anywhere there's gaming to be had, I'm a big retro guy. I'm emulating things all the time. Wherever there's games to be played. So when that is known to the community, I get questions like, hey, so how is it that you're able to play, let's say, Tears of the Kingdom on your ROG Ally? And then
Mhm.
I have to have conversations with folks about how to dump games and all of this stuff,
Mhm.
where stuff like that. For example, I was talking to you before, like I'm loving Bomb Rush Cyberpunk, a really good spiritual successor to one of my favorite games
Mhm.
in Jet Set Radio. Uh, I've spent years of my life emulating Jet Set Radio on various hardware,
Mhm.
right? And this is the first time where I think like this is a game that may have me. It'll scratch that itch enough for me that I won't be emulating it anytime soon on older hardware. But stuff like that, Hey, before the ROG Ally became a big thing, I was throwing Windows on Steam Deck. How do we do that, right? I was
Mhm.
talking with a couple friends. Who was his name? Jess Corden, a few other
Mhm.
folks. Hey, how do we? And we're going back and forth. Technology. Some folks wanted to run it off of their hard drive, but
Mhm.
if anything were to ever happen, then you have to wipe it and do it all over again. So we devised a method to run it off an SD card, and that whole thing. This kind of weird little fun tinkering things that we do in the background. So that led to, hey, it might be interesting to, we're not going into the deep waters of PC MR just yet, but maybe start some entry level, ask questions. People can ask you questions, do some entry level stuff, get people's feet wet, especially now that we're in the world where handhelds have kind of almost blurred the lines between between console and PC
Mhm.
gaming, So folks might need an outlet to ask some questions that they might not be so keen to ask in those harsh spaces that we find ourselves sometimes. So we thought something like this would be a good service to the community, that kind of thing.
Do you take more joy in figuring out how to do those things than actually playing the game? Is the meta of finding a way to make Tears of the Kingdom run on an ally, is that more fun to you? Do you enjoy that more?
It can get there. It can get there. So my co-host on the Gamers Playground, John Wolf, he actually helped me get on that path with him. He was a big PC, a big console guy. So much so that when he first bought a Steam Deck, he didn't like the front end UI and how it didn't look like Xbox, so he sold it. And then eventually he came back around and bought it again and bought a ROG Ally, and now he's on this crazy journey of console to PC
Mhm.
transition. So, like, basically, his thoughts on what he wants to talk about or what he wants to know more about drives our show. And he says exactly what you're describing now, where really quickly, in the PC space, since if you're a console person, you want a lot more of a console feel. You don't want to be clicking stuff around with your mouse. You want to load something up that's a front end that looks like a console. Those are called front end software, and there's a lot of them out there, right? So you start doing that and you start customizing it. You load this up and Mario shows up. You load this up and this person shows, and you really get into it. And I'm talking to John Wolf, and I'm like, bro, what'd you play this week? He goes, I just spent the whole week just setting this whole thing up. It's like it becomes almost addictive, getting all those little things, the customizations, the things you love. When you really get into it from the first time, it's it's enticing and all the power at your fingertips, the stuff you can do
Mhm.
versus the console space that you're used to, basically just taking whatever you're given.
Mhm.
The idea that you're now let loose and you can do whatever you want. Hey, it can't do this thing. Give it a week. I can make it do that thing, right? So
Mhm.
it becomes very much a meta game in and of itself. Absolutely, yeah. People really go hard on that side of the PC spectrum. But no, it's also for fun. You know, I really enjoy that stuff.
That's so cool to hear, and it's fun for me to listen to the energy that you put into it because it just sounds like a kid in a playground. It sounds like you've got a toy that you are just having a blast with, and
Absolutely,
I
yeah.
hope this isn't too out of pocket, but I remember a tweet that you made,
Mm-hmm.
probably a month at this point, talking about getting your children into STEM,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and just like that was a driving force for you.
Oh yeah.
Eh, could you touch on that and like why you think that's important? Because I think that's a part of
Um.
your content creation, whether you realize it or not.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Teaching STEM and the enjoyment and
The
in
fun, yes,
yeah.
yes. The fun of teaching the things that you think tend to be your broccoli that you don't want to have, but instead it's important. But you know, if you really think about it, it's probably the most fun you tend to have. You know, I've always been that person. I've always been a technology kind of person, even as a kid. I was big into music. There was a
Mhm,
world where I produced music. I made a lot of music. I studied music in school, and music led me to technology because I think, what is it, in 1994, when people were lugging around big, I was a DJ and all this, lugging around CDs and LPs and things. I
mhm.
I I discovered the brilliance of then the technology known as MP2. And it
Okay.
changed my life. You know what I mean? So that's where it kind of started heading in different directions for me. But yeah, it it's most folks think it's boring, and it tends to start that way. But you tend to be able to do a lot with that stuff that you think is boring. Like right now, my 6-year-old and she's been chomping at the bit. I've been dangling it on a string as a good reward. I got her a Raspberry Pi. We have like these little consoles, like
Yeah.
you can make it look like any old retro console, and then we're gonna throw a version of Linux slash Retroid Pi on there.
Mhm,
You know, start the whole process, because get her feet wet on it. She has no TV in her room, so I'm gonna, once this is all said and done, attach it via USB, plug it in the back of a thing. She has a controller, and now she has her first console, which she actually built. So
mhm.
that's where I'm going with it. I feel like that spurs you on to want to then create yourself one day. That was me, right? My uncle would leave for a while and go, hey, be very careful, and I would like put his Pentium 3 PC into pieces on the floor. He'd be
Mhm,
back in 7 hours, and that'd be my challenge to put it back together. you
mhm.
know, stuff like that. So I've been trying to spur that stuff on them and my kids with interesting results. I think so far it's been going pretty well.
That's really cool. It's funny you did that with your 6-year-old because 2, 3
Mhm,
summers ago, I did the retro pie thing and just messed around with it.
mhm, mhm.
And it was like at the peak of what I could do myself with my natural ability. And the fact that you're giving that to a 6-year-old
Oh, stop
is
it. No, no, no.
amazing.
Don't even do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. No. Anybody can do that stuff. There's a lot of instructions to follow
Mhm,
now. There are packages that are available. Like I call those weekend warrior projects. Like
mhm,
I found some really cool dude who put like a Raspberry Pi into a what is it, a mirror, and now he has a smart mirror, and he asks it questions and it answers it for him, and I'm just like, I think I could take 2 days to do stuff weird like this.
mhm.
My house is full of very weird tech. I'm sorry.
That's cool though.
that kind of stuff.
Does your enjoyment of that kind of stuff, but also
Mhm.
like the importance of wanting to build that into young minds, does that factor into the games you choose to play or to that your children should play?
Absolutely. Oh, that is a great question, because yes, absolutely. Like, I feel like gaming has matured, and we need to treat it that way. So more and more, I find games that push the boundaries get more of my attention. And by that, I don't mean the big AAA bombastic stuff, because they are there too, and they also deserve respect. And I love the speeds and feeds, and I'm a graphics, what was it? What's it? One of my favorite content creators, Jeff Kanata from
Yeah,
the
DLC.
for DLC, yes. NLB, newest, latest, best. That has always been me. So, I will do that. But when I say people that push the boundaries, I mean like a recent game that I played. And shout out to Thunderful Publishing Studios who was able to provide me a code for it. A Viewfinder. I don't know if you've seen Viewfinder out
I'm
there.
familiar with Thunderful. They work with us a lot,
Oh,
but Viewfinder.
man, like this is what I mean by
On
pushing the
Steam.
boundaries. Yeah, it's on Steam right now. It will be coming to various platforms. I actually played this one. They gave me a code. I played on PS5, and there's also a PC version. Like you take a camera, you take a picture, and you align the picture into the world, and then snap it, and it's in place, and it becomes part of the world. And it's an
I'm
interesting concept, but it goes so crazy. You're just mind blown. You're like, what kind of mind opening drugs were these people on when they put this together? I appreciate them so much. These are the things that I love. I think it expands gaming and expands minds when you just look at the concepts, So that's the kind of stuff I seek out.
I'm watching the trailer that you're talking about, and that is mind-bending, mind-blowing. It reminds me of,
Yeah.
there was a puzzle game, which the name escapes me right now, but you're on an island and you have to solve any number of puzzles with no directions. Kind of in the way that Myst.
Not The Messenger. Yes, it was
No.
by Jonathan Blow. Like, because what you're describing, the influence is in this game as well. They've actually called that out.
Okay.
Not is it The Witness?
The Witness
Yes,
sounds
The
right.
Witness.
The Witness.
Yes,
Yes.
Jonathan Blow, The Witness.
Yes.
Yes. This is a spiritual successor to The Witness.
Oh,
so
well,
it
there
has
you
the
go.
same certain visual elements. Yes, they, visual puzzles where you look at it a certain way and then it aligns a certain way, but they go even further in that they'll give you the picture. You can rotate it anywhere you want. There's like traversal elements where, you're far in the distance. There's the destination, and here you are in the source, and you have to literally use these pictures to traverse the world to get you to your destination. Like, they go so far in so many directions. I love stuff like this. The first thing I thought of when I saw it, I was like, you guys need to put this in VR so people can literally line up a picture themselves with their own hands and just walk through it. Very cool. I love my Call of Duties and all of that as well. But when you put something forward that no one else has done before you, you can, I will, especially if you're a small team, that's catnip for me. I love that stuff. So, that is what I tend to seek out, and that is what I tend to show my children, to kind of spur their ideas. My kids are also very much in the I want to build a game kind of mode. So these days, believe it or not, their go-to game is Mario Maker 1 and 2, like Mario Maker 2. They're in there all the time, Yeah, so I love that stuff, and I'm hoping that maybe one day they'll be the ones to come up with some unique thing that blows someone's mind, Yeah.
That's incredible, man. That's really neat. Do you to kind of loop this into like the content creation aspect, do you find that it's difficult to find an audience that's interested in talking about a game like Viewfinder versus a mainstream Call of Duty, right? Because do you understand my question? Like
Yeah,
very
absolutely.
neat versus
Absolutely.
like mainstream. Is it
Yeah,
difficult to balance
yeah.
that as a content creator?
It can be, and I can see how some folks would struggle with that. You know what I mean? Like I've seen and I love a lot of my content creators out there. We talk in the background. I'm a big fan of lots of their styles, and you'd see me and you'd hear me and you'd think, well, he only likes it a certain way, and I love the outlandish stuff. I love the slanderous stuff. Shout out to Game On Daily and Gaz and all the craziness that he does. I love that stuff, and they have to speak to the audience that brings them there, right? They have to strike while the iron's hot, And for someone like me, I go against the grain a little bit sometimes. Like, I try to temper expectation. I try to whoa, bring some context into the conversation, right? Or, oh, this thing is magic. No, it's not. Actually, this is how it was made. You know what I mean? And since my priority is more to have that interesting conversation, like my metric of success is far lower, I think. So like I can have a conversation about, what do you call it? Ratchet and Clank coming out on PC and running it off of an old spinning hard drive, and people going, how is that possible? And they go, well, actually, let's have that conversation, Starfield coming out and not running 60 on consoles, and people are bummed out. And I'm like,
Mhm.
well, let me tell you why. We may have a conversation where 150 people are so enthralled, and we have this back and forth, and it's so fruitful. And to me, that is a win, right? More often than not, after that conversation, when it's really good, I'll get residual comments, and people will come to me and go, "Oh, you need to do more of this and all that." I've never wanted that to be I've never wanted the conversation we have to be the focal point of the week. Like myself and Everborn always talk about evergreen content. We want you to be able to come to us right when the subject matter happens to be what you're thinking about, not necessarily because it's what everyone's talking about of the day, right? So without putting a time or a date to it, it should still be fresh and interesting and new. So with that in mind, I'm expecting that at some point, and it's been proving out, right? As the show goes on, more people find it, more people take their time to seek it out. Even in our console focused audience, I still get a lot of PC interested people who want to come and talk about it and all of that. And it's growing little by little by little. So I feel like it's just more a situation of just sit back and just keep plugging away at it and be consistent, and the audience is coming. It's not a problem for me. I enjoy it. It's an outlet. So
We talked on previous episodes of Creator Talk with other creators from like Mr. Matty Plays half a
hmm
million subscribers.
yeah,
Pong
yeah, yeah.
Sooli's on 14 different shows and has this wonderful audience that's very diverse, very,
hmm
very into like the console debates and such. Um,
Yeah.
the metric of success for me as a content creator is very difficult, right? 50 views on an interview to me feels low, but if 50 people are watching it to me, that's amazing, right? If they came walking to my house, that'd be wild too.
hmm
What is the metric of success for you? Like, what's your, I look at this and I feel accomplished.
Honestly, my metrics of success is the back and forth, the engagement, with many different content creators have different ways of getting feedback from their community. Shout out to the great Randall Thor 19 and
Mhm.
and Dealer Gaming and all them. They do their essays and they get feedback that way, and sometimes they do the podcast. Because honestly, there's just not enough time in the day for me. The way I do it is that community focus. Hey, there's something I want to talk to my brothers about. We sit down, we chat about it. And by the way, the chat's also involved. We're having that conversation. To me, honestly, that metric of success is when we start our conversation. What do you call it? The Gamers Playground, hour and a half, 90 minutes. We try to make it.
Mhm.
Last show was almost 2 hours. That was
Mhm.
successful, right?
Mhm.
Because you go there with a very specific topic of conversation that you're going to bring to bear. We're going to touch on this, and then it goes in such interesting locations, different places that you got to rail it in. Oh, we got to take it back. We're supposed to be an hour and a half. We're 2.5, 3 hours in. We got to stop,
Mhm.
right? That kind of thing. Same thing on GCP. Myself and Everborn got really, really, really into the what do you call it, the ABK deal, which
Mhm.
very fascinating, so many twists and turns, and
Mhm.
at a global scale, and he really delved deep into all the information, which was copious. If you really want to know, it's all right there. But as he says, most people don't like to read, and
Mhm.
we enjoy reading. So we've been pouring over that, watching stuff and all this. So we get into these shows and we have these conversations, and we can just tell that the audience is so satisfied. They're thankful. They're
Mhm.
super chatting. We're having this back and forth debate. It doesn't really matter to us whether 100 people were in the chat that day or 150 or 200, and they are growing. The graph is going in the positive direction, but I kind of feel like sometimes even with more people in the chat, the conversation gets lost a little bit because there's
Gets
so many
diluted.
dissenting. It gets diluted. Exactly. So more is not necessarily better for me so far. I've been
Mhm.
enjoying the conversation. Like, we getting really awesome folks like yourself that came on, and Paris Lily come on, and
Mhm.
people who you've seen, and you put them right on you put them in your rotation as, all right, these guys are required viewing, and then they'll come on your show. To me, that is metric of success. That means we're driving the conversation. We're getting folks interested. People join our chats. folks who content creators who I have really, really, really respected for years will join my chat and just kind of chat with us while we're having shows, which blows my mind. Luke Lohr joins our chat from time to time, which is totally awesome. Like, seriously, these are the things that I use as my metric of success. Seriously.
That's one. I'm honored to be included in that. Thank you.
Seriously, absolutely.
And I know what you mean, though. Like, it feels good when other content creators that you respect want to be a part of your work or whatnot. It means the world to get that. We had a Rand support us on Patreon the other day, and like the swell of pride was remarkable, not because of the money, but because he felt like it was worth doing, and he's been successful in the realm,
I mean, and you look at him and his success and his ideas and his body of work and his impressive like eye to detail, it spurs you on to do really interesting things there. So when they give you that respect, it's blows you away. Like, I had Cognito come on the show. Like, to me, the Ion Lords podcast is the pinnacle of podcast, like pinnacle. Seriously, there are none better, and they I consider them brothers. They come on the show. I talk to King David from time to time. I speak to Cog. They invite me on their show. To me, like, my wife is like, you could get like, people are doing Patreon now. You can do a bunch. I'm like, I was on ILP. I don't need anything else. I'm happy, baby. I'm good. I get to talk to the community. They talk back. We have interesting conversations. We'll grow, as we do. But I'm happy with just being able to have that back and forth with people. And, Paris Lilly being like, you know what, get me on the show. He takes the link, and 5 minutes later he's on the show, and we're having a conversation with the legendary Paris Lilly. All that to me is why I am there. I don't need more,
That's really cool to hear. I wrestle with a lot of that. I think as a content creator myself, I see others wrestle with it. Not just metrics of success, but do you need the big name? Is the big name guest important? Is it not important? Do you need to be recognized? Is Patreon important? You said super chats earlier. I have found watching and discussing like the financing of products and people choosing to support financially to be a really, I don't know what the right word is, but it's interesting to navigate. Truly interesting. It's not bad. It's not good. It's fascinating to watch how people will choose to support or not support financially in a super chat realm, Patreon, which is a subscription, being subscribed on YouTube. It makes it, I guess you would say, a different path than even like before you could monetize years ago. And I think it affects content for a lot of people. And I don't say that as a slanderous bad thing, right?
Sure.
But I do think it has an impact on the content creation space.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Like, people ask me why I don't have like memberships on YouTube or Patreon, because I don't think I'm worthy of it yet. Like, if I'm gonna, seriously, no, honestly, if I am going to offer you a product that I'm gonna ask you to pay for, I need to be able to carve out time in my schedule to dedicate to providing you the product that's valued enough to where you feel that you want to pay for it. I don't think I can do that right now in my life and the time that I provide, right? What I provide is for fun, The minute that there's an obligation that my audience pay for it, then I have to spend more time doing it. And if I can't spend that time doing it, then I should not be offering it to people to pay for it. Right. So if you happen to jump in my chat and you think it's great and you want a super chat, I think that's all great. All that money ends up going back into the show. I've kind of started doing some more interesting things with that. Right. But like, and salute to all those who are able to do that, because I feel like then it becomes a job, right? You are being paid for a thing, and adding that to your existing job, because I have not met a content creator yet, big or small, who doesn't have a day job in addition to this. So adding that job of it to your existing job, salute to you, good sir. I'm talking to you, Luke. And those of you who are able to pull that off successfully, it is not easy, right? So it's a daunting task for me, and a lot of folks have asked me to, hey, you guys have a great community. You should do that more. People want to support you in that way, and I will probably eventually at some point. But I feel like it's something that I don't want to just jump into because, oh, people want to give me their money, you know? I want to
Mhm.
earn their money. And I feel like earn it maybe with a certain product or something that they feel is valuable that way that I can be proud of to give them, you know? Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's something to wrestle with, too,
Yeah.
because it has become to a place where, and this is kind of my like the nature of this question is that content creation is no longer cheap, right?
Mm-hmm.
It
Mm-hmm.
can be, but the
Yeah.
reality is it is not. And I don't mean like buying a cool Halo light or
Mm-hmm.
stuff.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That was for me anyway. But like
Sure.
suddenly when you need the right mic, the right kind
Oh
of
yeah.
lighting, the
Oh yeah.
software, the editing
Mm-hmm.
software, you know,
Yes.
I think that is the nature of the question. So when I ping Rand about this question, or
Mm-hmm.
Neo, or Pong Soul, or Maddie Play, like when I talk to them about it, um, I think it has unique and interesting implications. And the reason I ask it is for young content creators who aren't sure. And
Mm-hmm.
I would say to all of the young content creators in terms of like freshly starting out, don't spend the money on the big stuff. Figure out if you like it. Figure out if it's for you.
Oh, I wholeheartedly 100,000% agree. Even now, I struggle with that because, like, I love, as we've established, I'm a technical guy. I love the speeds and feeds. I love all that stuff. So at some point, I'm like, you know what? Folks always, you ask me, what are the questions that folks ask me? How do I jump into podcasting?
Hmm.
I want to do that myself. You guys have inspired me. Always talk about your over the top services that are browser based, your StreamYard,
Hmm.
and now there are other offerings in that StreamYard realm that also
Hmm.
offer some cost effective stuff. you know but at some point you reach a certain limit where you may want to go off on your own and do something more interesting, like you add OBS into the mix. I can't tell you how many times that OBS will fail you the very last minute the show's about to go live, right? And you inside you are boiling. You are like, you got that cartoon steam coming out your ears. The show must go on. Woosah, you breathe. You go to the old, maybe static method that you feel is not worthy anymore, and the audience could give two word I won't use on this show, right? They're
Right.
just as excited, they're just as happy to be there. They're there for you and your conversation, even though you're just like, oh my god, it's not as good as it
Hmm.
was. They're just like, nope, it's happened to me multiple times. So I've come
Yep.
to that realization that it tends to be for you. You want to reach a certain threshold that in your mind and in your eye, you go, yep, that's what I want to see, right? But by and large, if you got the product, you got the product, the core is there, is you and the subject matter and all that. It could be wrapped in, the cheapest production values. Your audience won't care. I've come to that realization. Doesn't change anything for me though, but still,
Hmm.
at least it somewhere deep in me, when those crazy moments happen, I go, you know what? They won't care anymore. Anyway, they just want to see from us. They want to hear from us. So that's cool.
That was hard for me to learn.
Mm-hmm.
Especially like 2023, we transitioned to video, which
Yeah,
is
yeah.
why
Which
I needed the financial
I
help at the
was
time.
super excited. I was super
Thank
excited
you.
about, because I was listening on audio a long time, and I'm like, they need to get into video. That YouTube game is great, and you guys are
Hmm.
doing awesome there. Yeah.
Thank you. It was so scary to do,
Mm-hmm. Mm.
and I about melted my poor laptop. Which was
Yeah.
which was I learned so much because a lot of it's self-taught, self-taught is easier to do nowadays, right? Like you're talking about, there are directions for everything. Yeah, you can go find it,
Mm-hmm.
but it was
Mm-hmm.
mental energies expended outside of my skill set or even
Mm-hmm.
like interest set. Production's not my jam, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
learned it, but I look at the first few video versions and I'm like, ugh,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
fixing things manually. And now it's second nature. Editing has become no longer a chore
Mm-hmm.
when everything's working. It still work, but it's not the same thing.
Yeah.
Um, but it's funny, the audience didn't care. They were just supportive
No,
and
not
kind.
at all.
My
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
Discord is they are the nicest people. Every morning,
Mm-hmm.
every morning. Good morning, everybody. How's everyone doing? It's just the nicest.
Mm-hmm.
They don't care if I
No.
if I stuttered on an intro or something.
Nope. You will spend 20, 30, an hour just toiling over it in your mind. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? And
Mhm.
then the audience will just be like, "Oh yeah, it was a great episode." I'm just like,
I used to,
you
the
know?
first 5 episodes of XEP, this which is 100 and however many episodes ago,
Mm.
I edited out every single manually
Mm.
because I thought
Wow.
that was because I'm doing 'cause at the time
Yeah.
I was by myself and I didn't want
Yeah.
anybody to come here and listen and then think pure amateur. But I was so
Mhm,
nervous.
mhm.
I was,
Yeah.
little stuff, man. Audience didn't
No.
care. They were just supportive.
No.
Once I made it more natural, they were just like, "Yeah,
Mhm.
cool. That's fine."
Yeah, you have a conversation with your audience for good or for bad. When it's breaking live on stage and people are laughing. It's a beautiful thing. You know, you move
Mhm.
on. It's all good. You know, it's great. It's great.
Yep.
No, I completely agree with you. It's it's a learning thing, this whole game. It's a learning thing. I mean, I've been on stages before, like I used to make music and all that, but
Mhm.
it's an interesting creative outlet. It takes some learning and some flexing of the muscle to get right. And even when you think you're right, you're always trying to tweak it more. And the only one that cares is you.
Mhm. Yep, you're
You know.
exactly right. Exactly right. Well, I can't thank you enough for joining me on Creator Talk. It is an
Mm.
honor that you were willing to that you said yes, that you were willing to join me. Um, as I say, I frequent your shows, and I like to lurk in a lot of places and just listen. But I really appreciate you joining me. Will you let people know where to find your content and how to be supportive on socials?
Oh, great. Well, first and foremost, I'm honored to be on this. You know, like your shows are in my daily rotation. I'm you know we're getting men of a certain age must get out and walk on in the mornings and run, and so I've been doing that more and more. And between your show and I said DLC this morning and
Mhm.
this a bit early on and a few other shows that they're always in my rotation. You know, the Trophy Room podcast. Yes, I know. Yeah,
Joseph Moran, ugh, ugly kid,
you know
ugly kid.
the great Joseph Moran, who's out there also living his best life. I see him these days. So yes, you know I love that this can be part of the rotation, and you guys put up such great content. Always level headed, none of that ridiculousness that tends to permeate some of the zeitgeist. So I appreciate the being brought on and get to talk a little bit of fun content creator stuff with you. But you can find me. Folks can check me my stuff out on YouTube. K Asante, TKO Asante on your various platforms of choice. I am now a co-host on the Gaming Circle podcast, which is we tend to be more Xbox focused because I'm an Xbox guy that by way of PC, and my co-host is Xbox console. So, but we play all different kinds of things. And then on Monday nights, well, the Gaming Circle podcast is on Saturdays, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And on Monday nights, myself and John Wolf, who's a PC gamer himself, we, try to go through that journey as well. And it's just a way of communicating with with the community and expanding our reach and having great conversations with them back and forth about the gaming stuff that we all love. So thank you so much for letting me be on here. And if you folks want to check us out, we'd appreciate that as well.
There we go. Well, that's going to be it for us. Again, if you are supporting the show over on Patreon, thank you immensely. You guys are keeping the lights on, the content coming. If you're watching later on YouTube, please consider doing so or supporting Patreon rather. Thank you, everybody. Have a fantastic rest of your week. Take care.